Hello everyone, welcome to this special session where we are going to discuss how we are going to orient ourselves for RBI Grade B Phase 1. Now, as you know that we have done sessions on RBI Grade B Phase 2 sections, how do we prepare each one of those sections. Samish sir had done on the ESI section, then Ravi sir had done on the finance section, and then I had also taken a session on management section, how should we handle the management section. At that point also, and before that also, a lot of you had been asking that how should we orient ourselves for Phase 1, because this year's Phase 1, the year that went by, RBI 2020's Phase 1 had been challenging to say the least. A lot of people could not fathom how they are to approach those questions or approach a section in totality if a paper like that comes. And therefore, obviously, they had this query that how should we orient ourselves for RBI Grade B Phase 1 so that we are comfortable with whatever kind of paper RBI Grade B gives in Phase 1. Right. And that is what we will address in today's lecture. And there was also this question to us that in our course of RBI Grade B, combined course of RBI Grade B where Phase 1, Phase 2 would happen, in that Phase 1 course, how are we going to deal with things? So that is also something that we are going to address in this lecture. So what is the agenda of today's lecture? First of all, we are going to look at the pattern of paper in previous years and the changes that occurred if there had been any. Right, as we saw that in Phase 2 there had been major changes in whether it is management, finance or ESI. So had there been such changes in Phase 1 too? We will see that. Next, how are we planning to prepare ourselves in Meritshine RBI 2021 course? In the course, the comprehensive course, and even the Phase 1 course, what is our target of doing for Phase 1, what are the targets that we have? And then if you are preparing for yourself, right, then what should you ensure that you do? Right, obviously if you can prepare by yourself also. So if you are preparing by yourself, what are the things that you should keep in your mind so that you are well prepared for Phase 1? And finally, how to optimize our preparation for changes. Now, this is very important. Yes, there have been some changes that have happened in Phase 1 also, if not in the syllabus, but in the nature of the questions that have been coming. And we'll discuss that. So, how do we optimize our preparation for those changes? And not only the changes that have come in the RBI 2020 paper, what about if they change the paper more in the upcoming RBI 2021 paper, right? How do we handle the changes that have not come yet? For them, how do we prepare ourselves, right? So that is something that we'll also discuss in today's lectures along with the second and the third point, because that would give you a holistic idea about how you should approach if you are preparing by yourself and what you should do if you are preparing with us. Okay, chalo. So let's first start with looking at the structure of the Phase 1 paper. How does the Phase 1 paper look like? Let's look at that first, and then we will go section by section. First we will do the general awareness, then English, then Quant, then reasoning, section by section we'll go, right? So let's look at the Phase 1 exam pattern. Now look at this. General awareness is the biggest section in Phase 1, 80 questions and 80 marks, and the time allotted for it is 25 minutes, right? Then comes English language section. It is 30 questions of 30 marks and the time allotted is also 25 minutes. And then comes the Quantitative Aptitude section, 30 questions, 30 marks, again 25 minutes. Now comes the section that has the most amount of time that has been allotted to it, and that is 45 minutes, and that is reasoning ability. Reasoning ability, 60 questions, 60 marks, and that is why the time allotted is also more. Overall, we see 200 questions, 200 marks, 120 minutes. Okay, right? So this is the structure of the RBI Grade B Phase 1 as has happened for the past few years. Obviously, they can change in 2021 paper, but this has been till now. Now, we'll start with general awareness. We'll start in, we'll go in order only. General awareness first, then English, then quant, and then reasoning. So first, general awareness. Now, what had been the changes that have happened? We had talked about that there had been changes in the nature of the question. The syllabus, the structure of the paper have remained the same. Unlike phase 2, where the structure of the paper has also changed. From a full objective paper, it has become a 50% subjective and 50% objective paper. Here, it has not happened so. Here, the structure of the paper has remained the same, but the changes have happened inside the paper. For example, in general awareness, what has changed? Let me show that to you. Questions were asked checking details rather than headlines of news items. Okay, so that is one major change that has been seen in most of the general awareness questions. People, what do they do? They just go with the pointers and the headlines. They just mug them up, and they go ahead and think that they would be scoring in general awareness. But what happened in RBI Grade B Phase 1 this year, that they asked questions not from the headlines. They did not start, for example, if it was a question based on some policy. They did not ask when this policy came in. Rather, they asked a little deeper. They went a little deeper and asked a detail about that policy. This policy would be available to which age group, or which age group is not eligible for this policy. So sort of stuff like that. So complete reading of the news was important rather than just mugging up one-liners. Now that's an important change that happened this year in general awareness, right? Okay. So yes, that was an important change, but this is also true that, because of that, the requirement of your score in general awareness also reduced much. In, past years, we had seen in RBI people scoring 60 out of 80, even 70 out of 80 in general awareness. Because they had been direct questions, you just mug up a compendium and your job is done. You don't need to read the news all year long, right? Just 1 month before the exam, every day you just sort of start mugging up and you're done. But then this year, because the focus was in news, therefore, your ability to score such a high score also came down, and therefore we saw so many 30s and 40s out of 80 in that score, and that would have been enough also. Even a 30 might have been enough for a person to sail through. Whereas in earlier years, 50, some people even fell short of the overall cutoff, even if they had scored 50 in the GA section. So that's there. Because I have talked about cutoff, I'll just point out one thing, whereas in 2019 paper, the cutoff went up as high as, 110 plus to 120, right? This year the cutoff stabilized in somewhere around 65 to 70, right? So almost half, if not, half, a little more than the half. So what happens when the paper changes? This is something that I wanted to tell you. I'll come on the screen for this. See, what happens when the paper changes? What you should remember is that you shouldn't be panicking if the paper changes, because if the paper is changed and you have got to know inside the paper when you went for the paper, you see, majority of the people would panic, and because they would panic, they would lose the edge even if they have the knowledge to do that particular paper. Okay, so, and if you do not panic, because you have not panicked, you would be cool-minded and you will be able to do better than what your competitors did, and essentially thereby score a brownie points from there, right? So remember that if the paper is something which has not been predicted or has been something which was not expected, on expected lines, then people would panic. And if you do not panic, you stop yourself from panicking, half of your battle would be won there only. Obviously, you need to have the knowledge of some of them to answer, right? Only not panicking would that would not do the job, but yes, that would be a real start for you, right? So why I want to focus it, I'll tell you what we would do, what you should do, that I'm coming to it, so that you are the best person in the batch to score in there, in the exam takers. We'll talk about all that, but apart from that also we need to talk about our attitude, and that's no panicking attitude is something that you need to uphold in yourself. Practice it so that you can replicate it inside the paper if there is something surprising in the paper. Okay, chalo. So now let's discuss what is our plan, what are we going to do for our students in RBI Grade B Phase 1 program. Now, if from this also, if you are a person who is not preparing with us, he or she would also get an idea what he or she needs to do. Plus, I'll also pinpoint the most important stuff they need to do. So let's run through this first. You would be provided daily general knowledge or general awareness material, and based on them there would be weekly revision lectures. Then there would be monthly banking awareness lectures. Consolidated material would be provided so that all the things that you are learning, you test yourself on it, you can revise it, right? So that consolidation part also would be done at one end from us, but obviously you'll have to study everything, you'll have to make your own notes so that you remember them. And finally, we are also going to give banking and finance general awareness sectional, some notes, some lectures where we would be covering those necessary areas that needs to be covered in banking and finance awareness. Okay, right. So the generic, this banking awareness was the current one, and this banking and finance awareness would be the static ones. So this is all what is there in our plan for general awareness. Now, if you are preparing by yourself, what are the things that you need to ensure? Obviously, from here you already know that these are the things, if you do by yourself, it would be beneficial for you. Obviously, there is no doubt about it. Okay. But, there are some things that you should take care of, and these are the three things. First of all, pick one or two sources, not more. Don't gather sources and don't and not do anything from anywhere. Don't do that, right? Doing 80% from one or two sources would be better than doing 20% from 5 sources. Okay, so remember this always. Okay, so pick one or two sources which covers news holistically, and read extensively. That's very important. You see here, that daily GK material or weekly revision lectures. Why are we doing this? So that extensiveness comes into the is designed into the way we are doing things. So that is something that you'll have to ensure and revise thoroughly. Then here revision. Why is it that? So that we have thorough revision. That is something that you need to ensure. Third thing, very important. Now this is something that I cannot overstate the significance of this. This is so important. Be regular. In GA, what happens is that most of the times we think that 1 month to the exam we will cover everything. Don't do that mistake. I'll call that mistake only because those who did it, those who did not do regular reading, those who did not read news regularly, and were in touch of general awareness. Okay, when in touch of general awareness, they lost a lot, right? Even if they had mugged up the whole compendium, then also they were not prepared. Okay, so be regular, half of your job would already be done. Being regular is important because see what happens is that there is a lot of repetitiveness to the news that happens, isn't it? Right. So when you are regular, you already revise just by being regular. So there is an element of revision that happens with you because you're regular. And secondly, what happens, things don't get piled up. So when things get piled up, you leave things. you choose things, right? And when there is choosing that happens, then there would be things which might be important and you are leaving, that might also happen, right? So if you are regular, you would not let things pile up. So these are the three things that needs to be taken care of by you if you are preparing by yourself. As a matter of fact, even our students need to take care of this, because if you are not, especially the regular, see, these two things we are doing, but obviously the job has to be done by you. But this is something which is entirely in your hands, right? So everyone who is preparing needs to do this. Okay? Next, English. The next is English. Now, changes. Now here the changes, I'll go into a little detail in these changes. You see, I have mapped 2019-2020. Achha, whatever data I have put in here is all based on the memory based analysis of the papers that we had got. Okay, so obviously there can be a little bit of changes here and there, maybe one or two questions here or there, but more or less, as we have vetted it for multiple sources, multiple students of ours, therefore the chances of variation would be less, but yes, there would be. So coming back to it, RC in 2019 there were 10 questions, this year 12 to 15 questions, and the most important thing, there were 3 passages to read, whereas in 2019 there were 2 passages to read. So we see one change that is happening in 2020, it has become more reading intensive, right? Okay, now parajumble, more or less it had been the same, 5 questions there, 5 questions here. FIB close test also more or less same, 6 questions in 2019, 4 to 5 in here. Grammar had been the same, 5 questions there, 5 questions here, and vocab also I would say more or less the same only, because 4 questions of word swap, 3 questions of idiom substitution in 2020, 4 questions of word swap in 2019. Now, if you look at here, the nature of the questions are pretty general, as it happens in every competitive exam which has English as a section. And you might also notice that the vocabulary questions were obviously not direct questions, but applied questions of vocabulary. Having said that, so were there any significant changes in terms of in English, in terms of the difficulty level of the paper? Not as such. I mean, people who had taken both the years had been telling that English was one section where the deviation from the previous year had been minimum. But that doesn't mean that there had not been changes at all, because you saw that there had been 2 passages in 2019, whereas in 2020 you had to do 3 passages. So the amount of reading that you needed to do was more in 2020. So which essentially means that you need to work on your reading skills, because it would be a reading intensive paper. And obviously, if you work on your reading skills, that's going to help you everywhere, not only in phase 1 but in phase 2 too. Now I'll share with you the plan that we have made for the comprehensive program and the phase 1 part of the comprehensive program. What is it? Focus on the basic concepts of all topics thoroughly on concept session lectures, and that is what I am going to do with the students, that every concept, not only the ones that had come in the previous years. Yes, we will do parajumble concept first thoroughly, FIB close test concept first thoroughly, grammar concept first thoroughly, right? And then we will practice questions on them, see how to minimize the time of doing the questions in them, right? That we will do. But we will go beyond that also. We will also cover those topics which can occur. For example, para-completion, analogies, advanced grammar questions, odd one out, which is again an application of parajumbles. So all of these will also be covered as a part of our course, because what did I tell you at the start? That a lot of you are also asking us that what if the nature of the question changes again? How would we be prepared for it? You would be prepared for it by this way, by doing all the types of questions that normally come in competitive exams from the English section in similar levels of paper. Okay? Right. Next, Stress on reading skills and critical reasoning ability. Now this is so special to Meritshine. I had been telling this to every one of my students that in English you will get an RCCR separate module. No one who has not gone through this would be able to understand how important and how effective this is. It would change the way you think about passages, about question answering, about reasoning as such, verbal reasoning as such, right? An entire model would be there. And this is not only going to help you in RC, obviously in RC it would be of primary help, but this as a separate, this as a separate subsection comes in reasoning also. We'll see there. So this CR module of yours is going to help you in reasoning too. Okay? Sure. Next, for vocabulary, what we are planning is that we would be doing 500 odd words or idioms in lectures only. Inside lectures, I'll teach you 500 through synonyms, antonyms, and associations, 500 plus words. Apart from that, we are also going to provide you a list of 1500 plus frequently asked words and idioms. So you'd be privy to more than 2000 plus words or idiom with a lot of their usages too, which obviously is going to help you in vocab application questions like these. Okay, right? Now, fourth, practice all kinds of questions through practice session lectures. We will not be only focusing on types that came in past year. We are also going to focus on those questions which have come in different exams of the country of the same level or one level up than that. Okay? Right. So we'll be taking questions that have come, types of questions that have come in CAT, ZAT, types of questions that have come in banking exams. We'll take all the types and do them so that we are prepared for any kind of changes the RBI guys can think of. Analyze mocks and focus on score enhancement. Now this will be a very important part. Once you are prepared, then you should be able to translate your knowledge, your capabilities into scores. Okay, you have to translate them into scores, or else it would not matter, right? So having knowledge, having capability is something that we will build through this, but we will also help ourselves in scoring so that we are scoring the best that is possible from our end. Okay. Now, what are the things that you should ensure while preparing by yourself? First of all, do all the topics that has been mentioned above thoroughly. For basic concepts, you can refer to our YouTube lectures. For example, there is grammar playlist for basic grammar. You can refer to that. Then there is, the critical reasoning playlist. Then there are so many playlists there are. You just browse through it and you'd get them. So if you are preparing by yourself, take help of the free sessions that we have done on YouTube. Okay? Then keep doing regular practice. Work on your critical reasoning skills. It's going to be very, very handy in both English and reasoning. And finally, read a lot, my friend. There is no substitute of reading a lot. Articles, books, magazine, and regular reading helps in English section as well as your overall comprehension. Right? And I'll tell you what my students told me, last year, that 2020 paper, English was one of the most scoring area. There were people who could score around 20 to 25 in this section. Now imagine, you have 65 to 70 as cutoff and you score 25 in this. So you have to only score 40 to 45 from the rest of the three sections. So even if you just clear the cutoffs in sectional cutoffs in two sections, then also you would sail through, right? Okay, so that's there. So therefore, focus. Don't keep English waiting for the last moment, because scoring in English is easy if you have a regular focused way of doing it. I have already told you, and take help from our plan also, na? in Meritshine, whatever we would be doing, I have shared that with you. So take help from that and make your schedule likewise. Plan your session plan likewise. That would also help you. Next is Quant. Now, quantitative aptitude, let's look at the divisions of the questions. You see, arithmetic application. Now, in arithmetic application, there are all kinds of questions. Okay. Arithmetic applications, 14 to 16 questions had come in 2020 vis-a-vis 12 to 14 in 2019. If you look at all the rest of, if you take together the rest of the topics, quantitative comparison, though normally we will do quantitative comparison, some part of it in arithmetic only, so it had been same 3 to 4. Algebra, there were more questions in 2020. Algebra, most of the algebra questions were based out of equations, right? The number series, a little lesser number of questions this year, 2020 vis-a-vis 2019. Geometry mensuration, every year there are at least 1 to 2 questions based on mensuration. Geometry we haven't seen for the past 3 years, but yes, we will still do it because it can come. That's very important that, geometry and mensuration, we haven't been seeing direct geometry questions much. But we'll still do it because it would help us to be prepared for any uneventful thing that happens. If they go ahead and give even 5 questions of geometry, we are prepared for it. PNC and probability, there had been 1 question or 2 questions. The report were not clear based on that. Now you must be thinking that where is data interpretation, data sufficiency? You see, all of these, if you have noticed, make 30 or more or less 30. So where is data interpretation, data sufficiency? My dear friends, data interpretation and data sufficiency is not one singular type of question, but it's interpretation of data where majorly the questions were from arithmetic application, right? Out of the 10 to 12, there were 7 to 8 questions from arithmetic applications, and if I'm not wrong, around 2 to 3 from someplace else. Okay, so data interpretation was inside this only. I mean, this includes the data interpretation questions. Here I have just listed down the broad area. The type of questions data interpretation was there within this only. Similarly for data sufficiency, 3 to 4 questions. So this and in 2019, the data interpretation questions, if you see, were lesser, much lesser for that matter, almost half. Okay, which was not the case in 2020. Now, what is our plan? How do we think or how have we planned to prepare our students for this section? See, this section is one of the biggest pain point section for a lot of students, but you need also to understand that this section you do not need to score 30 out of 30. Even a score in a similar kind of paper that has come last year, even a score of around 12-13 would have been a great score for you in quantitative aptitude. Right, and that is possible. You'll have to take care of these 3 things, and I'll tell you what you need to take care for yourself, but also listen to what is our plan, because that might give you an idea about how to schedule your studies in this particular section. So focus on the fundamentals of all topics thoroughly in the concept session lectures. Now that's going to be our key feature, or I would say the key advantage. Concept session lectures focusing on the fundamentals. Obviously, we also guide you how you should be practicing inside the lecture only. Then you must have seen that RBI had been traditionally very arithmetic heavy paper, the RBI Grade B Phase-1. So you do not have any choice but to do arithmetic thoroughly. Alright, so if you put these 2 together, from arithmetic you are getting around 20 questions here. Okay, so 2/3 of the paper you could just, if you are thinking that you will leave arithmetic and go, that would be stupidity. And not only that, to make yourself prepared for any uneventful changes that might happen, you'll have to go 1 or 2 level higher than what has come till now. Right? And that we are going to do inside the classroom only. That we are going to do this is our plan, so that we are going to do inside our classroom only. Those who are preparing for themselves, what they should be doing, I'll come to that in a moment. Then third, in all topics, we will ensure that students are exposed to variety of questions. In lectures, more than the number of questions, what is important is the variety of questions, the diversity of the question, because you feel awkward when you see something which you have not seen till then. So in the lectures, we'll try to handle everything. We'll try to sort of cover everything that is there too, right? Okay, Abhishek sir, Samit sir would be covering everything there is on that particular topic, every kind of question, or almost all kind of questions that can happen in a competitive exam scenario would be discussed in there. Next, stress on problem solving ability. Our full stress would be on problem solving ability, because you see, our focus is to teach you how to think. At the end of the day, the thinking part would happen from your side only, na? That cannot happen from our side. And then it's not only for quant, it's for reasoning or English, everything. So that would go a long way to make yourself equipped to create solution to your problems. Okay? Obviously, we'll analyze mocks and focus on score enhancements. That's important, because having knowledge doesn't matter in short term if we are not able to clear the exams. And for that, we'll have to score in the exam. And what best way to do that but by, analyzing mocks and preparing ourselves for the D-Day. Now, things to ensure while preparing by yourself. First of all, build fundamentals of arithmetic thoroughly. Take help of our arithmetic DI playlist. That's an extensive, even today, people across India take the help of arithmetic DI playlist to clear all sorts of exams where arithmetic and DI comes. I'm not talking about banking exams only. Banking exams, SSC exams, CAT, ZAT, right? There have been so many students who have cleared CAT, Quant, arithmetic questions by just going through this playlist. Yes, not all questions, but majority of them, because, in this playlist, we have tried to include everything that normally comes in these kinds of exams. So do arithmetic thoroughly. And understand that you should be doing arithmetic thoroughly. That doesn't mean that you should be leaving the easy scoring. This will be easy scoring areas. Now, what are the easy scoring areas? Now, please do not generalize it. I am saying easy scoring areas. It means from what we have seen in the last 2 years in quadratic number series and quantity comparison, you could have scored in a way easier than in the arithmetic questions. So you could have done them first. I'm never saying that you should have left arithmetic. No, but you could have done these questions first. You could have got that 5, 6, 7 mark score first. That would have pushed your confidence, and maybe you would have reached a 15 to 20 marks in the quant section. Right. So get the basics of the miscellaneous topics. Miscellaneous topics means quantity comparison, algebra, number series, all of these topics. Well, work on the optimum ways of doing those questions. One thing, understand that only speed is not necessary. As I told you, if the questions are difficult, then everyone would be taking more time to solve this. And so your identification of the nature of the question is also important. A lot of preparation guys, guys who are preparing, does not have any idea that how does a difficult question look, how does an easy question look, until and unless they have tried and solved that question. But that's not necessary. Once you have practiced a lot, once you have trained yourselves on the concepts thoroughly, you can identify by looking at the question whether it's a more time taking question or whether it's a less time taking questions. Right. So work on the optimum ways of doing these questions. Now, finally, focus on problem solving ability. That's the key. I cannot, overemphasize on the fact that they are checking on your problem solving ability. So working on that is important. So if a question's nature changes, what do I mean by working on that? If a question's nature changes, are you able to adapt to that change? Are you able to focus your energies in such a way so that you are able to get the solution for that particular question? That's important. Okay? Now, the last section is reasoning. Reasoning, the changes that have come in the paper in the last 2 years have been minor, but yes, there had been. You see, puzzles 2020, there had been more puzzles than 2019. 5 more, but yes, more. Direction questions, 4 questions, 5 questions, more or less the same. Same goes with coding, decoding, a little lesser maybe. Inequality, the number of questions, came down a little. CR, the number of questions went up from 8 to, some people were saying 10, some people were saying 12. But whatever, minimum 10 question, that's a huge amount. After puzzle, if you see single contribution, it is of CR. Syllogism, 3 questions. Normally it had been 5, but 3 questions is cool enough too. Machine input output. 5 questions in each year, both 2019 2020. And then there are some miscellaneous topic like blood relation, alphanumeric based puzzles, sort of stuff like that. And in both the years, they had been more or less same, 6 to 7 questions. So, very big change in the structure? No, not at all. But the nature of the questions? Yes, the questions had become more, oriented towards checking again your problem solving abilities. So, let's look at what our plan is, and then we'll talk about what you should do if you are preparing by yourself. Puzzle is a major component here. We'll focus both on variety and the difficulty aspects of puzzle solving. And remember, just like Quant, only speed isn't important. Your problem solving ability is very important, because if the paper is difficult, then your speed would automatically come down in solving puzzles and Quant questions. Then for CR, I have already told you we'll have a separate module, and where we'll be discussing all different types of CR questions along with fundamental concepts. So that would be enough for these 10-12 marks. So learning CR is a double benefit game for us. Why is it so? Because that's going to help us in English also, and that's going to help us in reasoning too. Okay? Next. For non-puzzle, non-CR questions, we dive into their fundamentals. Once they are clear, students should find scoring in them very, very easy. And that's true. Everyone who has gone through the fundamentals lectures of directions, coding, decoding, they would understand that it's not difficult. You just need to know the right ways of doing it. Here also, in these cases also, we will train students to handle higher difficulty level questions so that you are prepared for any eventuality. Right? Obviously, here also we are going to analyze mocks and focus on score enhancement. Now, let's look at what are the things that you need to ensure while preparing by yourself. Needless to say, strengthen your concepts. Understand how different types of questions need to be approached. Then take help from our puzzle, syllogism, reasoning playlist for concept building. Right. So if you are doing it by yourself, take the help of the free lectures that we have on YouTube. Practice a lot, my dear friends. Yes, minimization of time taken is also something that you should keep in your mind. Optimize your methods. But also understand, don't go into mindless shortcut techniques because they don't really work. Understand the concepts, have some special ways of approaching the problem solving, that's okay. But only trying to find out this shortcut for this kind of question, this shortcut for this kind of question, that's not going to work. Right? And for difficult questions, you can take CAT, XAT questions, because that would take you one level up and would ensure that you are prepared for any kind of difficulty increase if they do. Right? And that's true for Quant also. Right? Now, these were the things that you need to do. Now, there is message. I wanted to make this message to everyone. Whether he's preparing or she is preparing with us, or he or she is preparing with by themselves. You need to remain focused, do regular work, and you would see small developments, or you might not see development at the starting also, but slowly those developments would build in, and one fine day that you would see that you are much ahead than your competitors. So before we log off, plan your preparation well. And planning your preparation well also means that you need to schedule your preparation. Like for example, when you join a course, like when you join Meritshine course, what do? We give a dynamic schedule. We show you that next 2 weeks these would be the classes. So you know that these are the things that you need to do for the next 2 weeks. If you're preparing by yourself, this needs to be done primarily by you so that you are regular, right? And today we don't have a notification on site. The pandemic is looming large, right? So if at this point of time you are feeling healthy and your everyone is safe and sound, start early and be ahead of competitors who would be starting after the notification, or maybe later, 3-4 months later, right? Start early and be ahead. Focus on both phase 1 and phase 2 from day one. Don't do the mistake of only focusing on phase 2 or only focusing on phase 1. And finally, as I have told you, I cannot overemphasize this thing. You have to be regular, my friends. You have to be regular to let the development sink in. Okay, right? So that would be all for today. Hope that this session helps you in planning your preparation well, in making you more informed in a way so that you can give your best in the preparation of RBI Grade B exam. Okay, so that will be all for today. Thank you very much. Be safe, be healthy, and all the best.